Hi, my name is Ed Lewis. I work for ICANN, and we are in the process of changing a configuration parameter throughout the DNS we call the KSK. So the basic of my talk, I have a lot of meat in the later half of this, so I want to go quickly into what the environment is. This is about the DNS, about the security of the DNS. And people are leaving because they don't care about DNS. That's okay. That's good. So this is about the DNS security extensions. We have, inside the security extensions, we add a digital signature to the data. Signing and validation are the two parts of that. And for those who are familiar with cryptographic keys that get involved with digital signatures, we have two kinds of keys we talk about: key signing keys and zone signing keys. The key signing key signs other keys. Zone signing key signs data. What we're doing here is we're changing the KSK that's at the top of this graphic. It's the key that signs all the other keys down the chain to help validate data at the other end. We have to do this in a very stable and secure manner. The reason why this job is hard, there's a couple of reasons why this job is hard. One reason why it's hard is that at one time there was no DNSSEC. We brought on a new key. No one knew anything about that key. That key got learned. That key's been around for 7 years now. We want to change it. And we're finding that changing that key is hard because no other systems outside our area of work are ready for this. We have to iron out a lot of different software out there, the processes out there, getting the word out there. And so this is taking quite a while. We have KSK 2010. That was the original key. We call a new one KSK 2017. And I'll point out that's not a typo. We're still rolling to it in the future, but we've delayed our actions because of things that have come up. If you're an operator of DNS servers out there, you may have some work to do for this upgrade or this rollover. The approach we're using, we're following a standard way of teaching the new key to systems out there called automated updates of DNSSEC trust anchors. RFC 5011 is what many people have called that document. We are in the middle of doing this. We used to say follow it completely, you'll learn everything. We are still following it, but it's a little bit late to start following us now because we've been through some of the early milestones already. So this was our original plan. We were going to create the key. We did create the key last October of 2016. We spread it through our systems in February of 2017, so it was ready to go. It was fully functional. After that, we just told people about the key. Here's the new key out here. And on July 11th, we began the process of publishing the key in the DNS, in band in the DNS protocol. Leading up to October 11th, which was when we were going to change to use the key, we found out that we probably shouldn't go forward, and so we paused at this moment. And currently, our milestones look like this. With October 11th, 2018 is the next time that we're planning to make the change to the key, 1 year later exactly. And then we'll continue on with revocation and deletion of the key, the old key. Now, why did we make this change? When we started this entire process, there's always concern that should we go forward, is the world ready for the new key? Well, when we started, there was absolutely no way to tell. There was nothing out there available for us to go on, so we couldn't pin it on certain statistics. In the meantime, because we're taking our time, people invented ways to measure these things, and they rolled out a measurement pretty quickly, and the measurement did not go well. It didn't tell us what we wanted to hear, so we stopped to pause. Now, the measurement that we're using right now is called signaling trust anchor knowledge in the DNS. That was done pretty quickly through the IETF. It's an RFC now. It's been quickly turned into code by many vendors out there. Bind has it, Unbound has it. I think NotResolver has it, and a few others have it. And not only was the software written, people deployed this software. They quickly pushed it out into the field to get these signals coming back to us. And this is what the data looks like going from the start of our data collection to today. It's a mess. These charts don't tell us much of anything, honestly. And to go back to what Martin was saying, this is measuring what's out on the internet. This is not measuring our processes, anything that we do. This is what other people are doing. And this is also a system that's in progress. We're rolling out new counters every day. You see some of the spikes and jumps in there because at one time it was only Bind, then Unbound added it, and suddenly it went out there like crazy. And so on. It's all over the place right now. So this is an example. This is not up and to the right. This is an example of just stuff getting deployed through the internet, and it makes it very hard to manage something when you look at a chart and it doesn't make sense to you. So we took a longer look at this data. Verisign began researching this. They were keen on this measurement quickly. ICANN charged in after that. We took a look at it too. We weren't very happy with what we saw. We weren't encouraged with what we saw there, but there's also lots of questions about what we were seeing too. So we started that pause because the data was not very informative. Brute force, we tried to contact people or contact owners of machines that were showing us the bad data, bad in quotes. That was hard. It's hard to find people in the internet these days, believe it or not. Their addresses are dynamic. They're all over the place. They're virtual machines. They're not real things out there. They're not people running these things anymore. The accuracy of the measurement came up because while this thing tells us what a resolver says about its trust anchors, it also repeats what it hears from everybody else by accident. And so we had a hard time telling what was a true signal, what was a fake signal in there. We did try to look for obvious errors in the systematic code we have out there. All the code turned out to be pretty clean. So we paused. The tough part here was we paused not because of any mistake we saw in anything we were doing. If it's a mistake in what you're doing, you can fix that and move on. You know you fixed it and you can go on. We don't have that. We're following the same plan. However, we did plan for this kind of event so we aren't stuck. We were able to cycle in the same place for a year waiting for the next move. ICANN's tried to engage the community, and you're our community, for any assistance here. If you can tell us what's going on, if you have any hints on what's going on, any ideas, we're all ears to this. We've been finding things from folks to help us go along. Now, the good news here is after some investigators have found different reasons of where these signals are coming from, mostly about the signals themselves, not about configuration errors, we're starting to see in the last month a significant trend downward. This is good news, and we still have a few months to go before the roll will happen. But keep in mind that this is just a sample. This isn't everybody out there, so we really can't go too much on this. But what we are going to count on is that come October 11, 2018, there will be people out there who have not heard this message. And we're trying, but if you haven't heard this message, we don't know who you are. We can't find everybody in the world, but we'd like to. So again, if you know of someone out there running a network, they don't know, if this comes up and they don't know what's going on, please point them to this presentation and point them to whoever who might know anything about DNS security out there and help us find these people too. There are more graphs available. We have a website, of course. There are charts for each of the root servers out there. And also, we do have a list of addresses that are showing the bad information. We've had people look at that and say, oh, that was one of the machines I thought I had fixed, and they went out and fixed it again. And it's just, we're trying to find these machines out there. Not people, we're trying to find the machines out there. Now, so the remainder of the presentation is to help you be prepared for this rollover, and I'll probably have to keep going at a fairly quick pace. But this is the new key. It's known by number 20326. That's a key tag. It's a jargon number. You'll see it in places. It'll come up again in some of the tools that you might use. If there was a DS record for it, it would look like that. This is what the key looks like in the DNS. You can look at it now. This was before it came out in DNS. You can, if you trust who I am, if you trust that I'm from ICANN, you can trust, and I say this is the right key, you can use that as one of your ways of figuring out whether this is the right key or not. Now, currently, there's no panic in our role. Outside of the pause, there's no panic. Everything's running well. The current key 2010 is good, is still working. So we're taking a slow, steady approach. But at this point right now, everybody who has been following us should already be trusting the new key out there, one way or the other. Make sure that the resolver you have out there has the key. So the questions are, how can you tell if you're doing validation? Because if you're not doing validation, you won't be affected by this. If you're doing validation, how can you tell what keys you have? There's a domain name called DNSSEC-fail.org. If you ask for the A record of that, and you look at a server that's doing DNSSEC, it will fail that. It unintentionally fail that name. If you get back the answer, that means the server you're testing is not doing validation. In this case, this is the $server. $server is what I'm testing. If that thing's validating, you'll see this. You'll see the serve fail there. If that $server is not doing validation, you will see the address that's there in that record. How can you see whether the KSK 2017 is trusted? This I have to actually point you to another URL that we have, because it depends on the tools you have. It depends on whether you're running bind, unbound, not resolver, power DNS, whatever it is that you're using out there for DNSSEC validation. But to give you, and what you should see here is you see these two keys, KSK 2017, which has that number, 2326, KSK 2010, which has 19036. Those numbers were picked randomly. We didn't control that. Eventually, the 2010 key will go away, but not yet. If you throw it away now, you will stop validating currently. If you're looking at bind, using some of bind's older tools, I picked the older tools because everything does this. The newer code actually has some slicker ways of doing this. You should see these two keys listed when you ask for the sec roots. And on Unbound, you have they have a root key file. When you look at it, you should see these two entries with those numbers there at the end of those arrows, and also that both should be valid. Just an example of some of the more popular validators out there. So what if 2017 is not trusted by the system? Again, you'll have to go to the tools documentation. We have documented that on our website, and I would have to point you to that to get down to what it is you are running. Depends on which version of bind you have, which version of Unbound you have, and so on. So symptoms of the wrong trust anchor. If on October 11th the trust anchor hasn't been updated, what's going to happen? Eventually, everything will stop at that DNS server. Everything will be server fail. It'll be a failure to look it up because the root zone is signed, and if you can't get through the root zone downward, you're going to get nowhere. Everything is out. It doesn't depend on whether the other side is signed or not. All validation will fail, saying that there's something wrong. You'll have to look for the signs of that failure somehow. Now, today, where can you get the key? We have the key available on a website in an XML file through IANN, and the URL is up on top of that. It's in the DNS right now, although I caution that when you're trying to trust a system, you don't want to trust a key in the system necessarily to make sure you're trusting the right thing unless you know that is the right key out there. Most software distributions nowadays have the key in it. They ship with both the old and the new key. But be careful that when you do an upgrade of software, tech refresh of the software, you also check the configuration files you have. We've discovered one of the traits here was that some operators are still using the bind configuration files from 10 years ago that have static configuration information which overruled what was in the code. So be careful of your configuration files. Look at them too, not just the code. You can look at the key in the slides. That may be more lighthearted than true. And you can just talk to other people to make sure you have the correct KSK that's coming in. Now in the future, we will revoke KSK 2010 at some point when the roll has happened. Probably 6 months after we actually successfully roll is kind of what we've been planning on. There will be more KSK rollovers after this. The pain of this one is a growing pains. We fixed a lot of things along the way. We should be able to do this again more quickly next time. And for those who are configuring servers out there that want to do validation, consider the automatic updates. For as much trouble as we had the first time through here, it's still working as it's designed. Now we have a couple of resources and tools from ICANN. We have a Python language script to help you retrieve the keys and evaluate the keys. That's available in GitHub. We have the automatic updates testbed, which probably is not as useful now as it has been in the past, but you can run that to see if your configurations will do the automated updates process. And there's documentation. We have lots of stuff on a website. If you go to the ICANN.org main web page, there's a KSK rollover block somewhere there. You point on that, and you'll see a whole list of resources available to you. And on here, I do want to point out one thing on top. There's a mailing list, ksk-rollover at ICANN.org. Please join that mailing list. You'll get news about the rollover, and you can discuss what's going on. It's a two-way mailing list. There's not a lot of traffic on that right now. It doesn't usually have lots of traffic at all, but it does discuss matters of what are we doing now, where are we, and you can always ask questions through that point. And with that, I believe I will go to questions if there are any.
Вопросы, коллеги?
Questions? Vladimir Samohin, may I ask a question in Russian? Yeah. So there is a technical solutions that allow to speed up the process of signing validation of entries and signature of zones. So there is a project, riptech.is, about that, and some companies they prefer to use such solutions to speed up the operation of the protocol DNSSEC. So do you interact with them somehow, with those companies from the viewpoint of updating of the keys? Is there any interaction between you and those companies?
More quickly updating the keys. We haven't been doing that. Let me address that a few ways. For one thing, the workload for the root zone is very small. The root zone only has 1,500 entries, so it's very easy to change the keys in the root zone. The hard part here is strictly in getting people in the community to know the new key is coming. And we've looked at different emergency key roles. We've looked at ways to speed up the process. We've taken years to do this right now. If we try to do it as quickly as possible, if we try to do an exercise, which who cares about the cost, let's do it quickly, the longest part of that is always educating the community that we have a new key. That's always going to be the hardest part. And so we're a little bit unique from a technological upgrade to do this quicker. Right now, we're taking a long time because we're fitting all of these steps we're taking into the quarterly process we have for existing root zone maintenance. And that's obviously very generous on time. We're aware of much faster ways to do the key rollover. But right now, no matter what we do, the hardest part here, because the root zone is unique here, there's no parent to us that helps us change the key more quickly. I've worked for TLDs where that's the case. But our longest timeline event here is getting people in the community to know that there's a new key out there.
Хорошо, да, спасибо большое.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. I got it. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Any more questions? Okay, there is another question.
You can query in the CH class for what the current trust anchors are on that. So if you want to keep check whether or not it is, it finds all the trust anchors it knows about. So.
Okay, yeah, I'll make sure that's in our documentation. Yeah. Okay, yeah.
Thank you, Edward.